Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. This is good news. You may have seen the story about the 7-Eleven employees who stopped and beat a man who was robbing them. Well, the reporting was that these guys, the employees, were facing a criminal investigation. We are now hearing that the criminal himself has been arrested, and a civil rights lawyer is warning the police not to go after the workers. Now, of course, if the story was simply that workers began mercilessly beating a thief, many people are going to be like, maybe you shouldn't have beat him so hard. And others might say on the left, they're going to be like, he was just stealing cigarettes. You don't got to hurt the guy. But the guy threatened to kill these people. So what do? I will never blame the victims and force them to cower and hide when someone threatens them with deadly force. They did what they had to do to defend themselves. And the guy got caught. Here's the story. Serial cigarette thief who was beaten up by Sikh 7-Eleven staff in botched robbery is finally arrested. They say Tyrone Frazier, 42, was arrested by officers after a video of himself attempting to steal cigarettes from a 7-Eleven in Stockton, California went viral. The workers are seen smacking Frazier with a stick after he entered the store with a garbage can and began filling it with tobacco products from behind the counter. The attempted theft was the third time in 2 days the man had targeted the store. On a previous occasion, he tried to intimidate staff by claiming it a handgun. Despite widespread praise for the workers for defending the business, Stockton Police Department launched an assault probe for which has now been slammed by a prominent civil rights lawyer. Speaking to Fox News, attorney Leo Terrell told the network that authorities should not be looking to prosecute the clerks. Who is at fault is very simply the criminal. Look at how relaxed he is. That is the democratic laws that are in California where the criminal is the victim. Because you know the system is racist, the DA should have that criminal in jail right now because he did it not just once but twice. If there is any focus on these shop owners who are trying to protect their property, no way. They should not be charged with criminal crime. That's an interesting quote. I'm not sure this guy's first language is English. If there is some type of civil suit, that criminal will have zero chance of prevailing. 7-Eleven should back up these shop owners. Here. 7-Eleven should fund the legal defense of their employees. Their lives are threatened on more than one occasion. They defend themselves. They defend their property. What else could someone do when facing threats of death? Now in Texas, you're allowed to use force to defend property. I'm a little torn on that one, to be completely honest. You know, I understand there's a limit on defending property. I know a lot of people immediately are commenting like, no, you should be able to defend any property. Well, hold on. If I'm on a big swath of land that's 10,000 acres and there is a dude walking on that land, 10,000 acres, should you be able to defend that property? Well, hold on. What does that mean? You see, this is my point. If a person accidentally trespasses, they should be warned. Dude, you're trespassing. Turn around and leave right now. If the person then becomes threatening, now you have a right to defend yourself and your property. Now we're talking about physically removable property, right? Defending the property they're standing on versus a property like a device. Depends on the value, in my opinion. I know not everybody would agree. In Texas, they're going to say, I don't care if it's a paperclip. I do. If someone's snatching a paperclip, I don't think that's a hell-worthy trespass. And they grab a paperclip and they run off, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But if they're trying to take from you something you absolutely need to live, like they destroy your furnace or something, and you're like, now my family's going to freeze to death, yeah, that's different. I don't know where that line is. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on these things. But basically, if the theft or destruction of property or the seizure of property would threaten your life in some way, in any way, then I believe you have a right to defend it. So let's say you're growing crops and someone comes in destroying those crops. You have a right to defend it. Why? That's food you need to eat. Are you immediately going to die? No, not if you don't have the food, but you could die later on. That's why I'm not saying lethal force. In Texas, I think you're allowed to use lethal force to defend property. It's kind of crazy. In certain jurisdictions, West Virginia is very lax on this too. Like in West Virginia, if someone's trespassing on your land, you can use a certain amount of force. You know, I don't think you can try to kill somebody, but you can brandish a weapon and things like that. And but they tell you to be careful. Like we want to be reasonable people. These criminals are not reasonable. And these Democrat laws and these Democrat-run cities are not reasonable. Let me show you this. Here's a video. I talked about it earlier. This woman's bike gets stolen in San Diego in broad daylight. Nobody helps her as she cries for help. What innocent bystander is going to get involved with today's overzealous prosecution? Let me play this for you. You can hear for yourself.
Help me! Help me! Somebody help me!
guy just casually stealing her bike? Now I'm going to stop right there and just say, to be completely honest, I don't even know that that bike belonged to that lady. For all we know, she was stealing the bike and he was stealing it back. That's how crazy things are in these cities. San Diego, of course, not the worst, but we're seeing more and more of this. I think it's fair to point out with the rise of cameras, the ubiquity of phone cameras, we're going to see a lot more videos we don't normally see. That's true. But we also do know that petty crime, violence, theft, these things are rising in these cities. San Diego, again, not the worst offender. They've actually been fairly decent on a lot of these laws. But we're seeing more and more of this, especially in places like San Diego, Stockton, Sacramento. I mean, let's just mention California ain't doing too well. You've got similar things happening up in Seattle. A woman got bashed in the face with a water bottle. She's like, I'm voting Republican now. And you know what I'm reminded of? I see a lot of people responding to this story saying, too bad you voted for it. And I'm like, it reminds me of this quote. Let me read it for you. The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood. And when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waists, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, save us. And I'll look down and whisper, no. Amazing. It's a quote from the character Rorschach. Alan Moore, who wrote that quote, did not intend for anyone to look up to that individual. He is a filthy, morally absolutist individual. But that statement, that quote, that means something, whether Alan Moore realized it or not. They will look up and shout, save us. And I look down and whisper, no. I love the Watchman movie, by the way. I think the movie's fantastic. Not everybody liked it, but I thought it was masterfully done. One of my favorite movies, and I love that opening sequence with Rorschach explaining what's going on. And I love that Rorschach, the character, gets arrested. He gets caught. He's a vigilante, right? And he's got this shrink, and he calls the guy a fat. He says, you're fat with liberal sensibilities. And I'm just like, you see, look, I'm not going to advocate for anybody to be like Rorschach, but there is a certain catharsis in what he said. These people in these cities keep giving the benefit of the doubt to the criminals, keep protecting the criminals, blaming the victims. And then when you have false accusations, they say, why are you blaming the victims? Dude, no one trusts you. No one believes you. And your policies are destroying this city. I'm not going to sit here and blame the victims. And I'm not going to call for over-criminalization and punitive measures. But we got to have law and order. If someone breaks the law on camera, you know what you say to a guy who threatens people with death and they defend themselves? You walk in and the guy on the ground saying, oh, they're hitting me. And you'd be like, you threatened to kill them, dude. Cry about it more. You're getting locked up. Now, let's try this scenario. This guy is walking down the street with his own cigarettes. They're his. And two Sikhs walk up with a stick and grab him and start mercilessly beating him. And the guy's like, stop, help. You know what should happen? People should help him. And the guys beating him should be arrested. But that's not what happened. What happened is this guy has terrorized this business, threatening to shoot them. He pulled out some kind of, he pulls out some kind of weapon. It looks like a knife. And so they grab him and start hitting him. What are they supposed to do? Wait and hope he doesn't hurt them? I mentioned it in this other video. When there's a guy behind the counter and a dude walks over with a gun and he starts stealing from the register and then he looks over and just shoots the guy for no reason. I'm not going to make the victims go through that. The moment you jump the counter, you have said you have threatened someone with death. That's it. You jump the counter and you're making an attack on them. That is a death threat and you forfeit your life in that situation. Now, I don't want anybody to die. I don't want the person committing the crime to die. I want them to be held accountable. I want them to be placed in front of a jury of their peers. I want the justice system to say, these people are bad and we will hold them accountable. But if you threaten to kill someone, that victim of your threats has a right to protect themselves. But we'll see. We'll see. They arrested the guy. All right. That's good news. We'll see if they go after the victims. They might. I think they're evil, but I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up. What are we at here? It'll be at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.